Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Faz. This is a bonus episode. Woo! Except it's not. We're shortchanging you big time. This is just an excerpt. Is that the word? Excerpt? Excerpt. Yeah, we'll go with that. This is an excerpt from episode 2. Our very first podcast that we actually reviewed a game, and our very first ever review. We didn't want to be accused of not being completionist, even though we are most definitely fucking not. But when I said we were going to do the whole Uncharted franchise, and people were like, oh, people, like in my head, the voices in my head were saying, oh, well, the full Uncharted franchise. Well, we've already done the whole full franchise. The voices, the whole Uncharted franchise. Because coming up next week, we have got the very first 3 games in the Nathan Drake collection. And then the week after, we will have Uncharted 4 and Uncharted Lost Legacy. And then, but we've also got Uncharted Golden Abyss. So this is the roughest cut that you will ever hear from me right now in this 1 minute 30, but also from way back in the podcast. So if you've never listened to the very first few episodes of the podcast, this is what they sound like. We were drinking and it was recorded really poorly. So hopefully it's worth listening to. Right. Cheers, guys. What were we going to do? Review games.
We were, yeah. So Uncharted.
Yes.
You know, they big franchise on the home consoles, stuff like that. You can see why Sony were like, hey, we've got this new handheld. We want to, bring the console experience out to the streets and,
Out to the streets, all the hard-hitting children with the PS Vita.
Exactly, yeah.
Definitely in gangs.
Both of them. And so it felt like quite a long game, and I don't think it's anywhere near as long as, say, Uncharted 2 or anything like that. And I'm not going to go as far as to say it was a chore to play, but I mean, you played the first couple of levels. As soon as it decides that it's going to be like, hey, the Vita's got a feature, you're going to sit there and you're going to learn how to use the fucking feature. Yeah. Whether you want to or not. And like Uncharted's always had this really good momentum to it. It always feels like you're pushing forward and it's this big journey, and those bits where you're, on a balance beam, not balance beam, like you're balancing on a log or whatever, the balance beam of the streets.
Nathan gymnasium, just like trying to sort out his game.
Good enough for Lara Croft.
Yeah.
So
was there a butler there?
No, but then you do always have an AI companion with you who is varying levels of irritating, and you'll be merrily pootling along, and then suddenly you sort of stop halfway across this log, and then you have to stop and balance by tilting the console. It's not like you can just use the stick and keep moving and just be good at pointing in the right direction.
Yeah.
Or you're having to do charcoal rubbings, or later on you're having to paddle canoes by flicking the screen. You have to navigate the menu by flicking the screen, and it's those moments where it's moving away from the buttons. It suddenly feels a lot less like Uncharted, and like not only that, but story-wise, it may as well be called Inevitable Betrayal the Game. Like we all know the deal by now with Uncharted, but like it's still, the other ones flirt with the supernatural a little bit, or they'll do something a bit different. This one, to their blockbuster stories, this feels like the kind of TV adaptation where they have to keep it a little bit, shorter and a bit under budget and all that. Or you've got Nathan Drake's journal. You know, it's all very Indiana Jones, but you go into it and you're flicking through with the screen, and because of all the collectibles, it looks like a sticker album.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that. So, you know, you've got all that on the one hand, and then you've got the fact that it looks great. It sounds great. When it remembers it's Uncharted, like, it's really good. It's really good at what it does. I mean, the shooting is still floaty as anything.
I think that, just to come back to the point there, when you said it looks great, it was a launch title for the PS Vita.
I think it was, yeah.
So, what, 2012 was it? I think,
Yeah.
And it looks very good for a game from 2012 on a handheld console.
Yeah.
Like, there's... I mean, how much is the Switch pushed that graphically for, I guess, what you call a handheld console? It definitely is, obviously, from an age difference. You can see that, but not massively. Like, when I played on that there, I was really impressed with how it looked for a game that is now 11 years old.
Yeah, and I think the screen size counts for a lot. The original Vita had an OLED screen, which would have helped as well. This version doesn't.
Okay.
So, you know, the colours are a little bit more muted on my one, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think handhelds in general, until you know, getting towards like Steam Deck and stuff like that, have necessarily pushed it. I think the difference is performance. Like, occasionally, if you're in an intense firefight or something like that, you know, explosions and floaty gunfire where you think you've shot a guy in the head 4 times and he's still staring at you like a Burke, you know, like it's it starts to judder a little bit, and, you know, occasionally looks a bit jagged around the edges. But on the whole, like, it holds up really well, I think. So yeah, pretty solid. I mean, it's got a load of bump in it that, you know, you can't use nowadays. Like, a lot of the collectibles are tied to this card game that you can't download anymore.
Okay.
And they had this whole black market thing for like the near function on the Vita that you could trade items. I never even frigging knew that existed until I sat down, this week to play it. So yeah, it was an enjoyable revisit. Probably won't go too far out of my way to play through it again. You know, it's been, I don't know, maybe 8 years, maybe longer, because I'm usually a couple of years behind the curve on consoles and stuff anyway. Yeah. And I've not sat there going like, oh, you know what, I really fancy playing. I fancy playing Uncharted Golden Abyss. You know, whereas in that time I played Uncharted 2 like 3 or 4 times.
Okay, right.
You know, so yeah, it holds up. But it definitely falls victim to that whole, hey, this is a new console, we've got new features.
I feel like replayability might be something we might come back to in our general conversation at the end.
Yeah, I think it's probably an important point.
If you were going to put a completely arbitrary number out of 10, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that, but I feel like, for me, not being as aware of the game, even I've played, you know, the whole 15 minutes that I played before the pod, just to get a feel for it, so we can ask some questions around it. You know, I've seen the tutorial effectively, and it looked great. It looked like it was building up to something that would be great. But I also saw limitations straight away where I thought, this is going to sound strange, but within the 15 minutes I was like, I kind of feel like I've seen most of the game. I haven't seen the story, but I've seen a lot of the main mechanics I feel like I need to see, especially out of the Vita exclusive mechanics.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much bang on. And I mean, I think the most creative they get later on is at one point you have to hold the Vita up to a light to get, you know, the impression
that sounds
of like
really cool though.
Some paper and like light shining behind it. So it's some good use of the camera. Problem with that, with this particular playthrough, was that the light in my living room isn't bright enough, so I had to get my phone out and so I had the torch on my phone and I had the Vita in the other hand, trying to get them all lined up, and then I kept blinding myself because I got it wrong. So
I feel like that's an indictment on energy saving light bulbs.
I feel like it's an indictment on my hand-eye coordination. But either way, the point is that that's the one time that happens. Everything else is front touchscreen, rear touchscreen, gyro. That's it, and it's variations of the same thing. Like if you've cut down one set of bamboo canes, you've done charcoal rubbings, you've done this, that, the other. The most natural it ever feels is if you are using the camera or the sniper rifle. Okay. Sniper rifle in particular, because it's still like baked into the gunplay, but you can zoom in with the rear touchpad.
Right, yeah.
Like so,
that's cool.
It feels a bit more natural, and I didn't even realise I was actually using the gyro to aim quite a lot. I usually turn it off on the Switch. Like I'm not a huge fan of it.
Yeah,
but on that, it felt quite natural. So you know, some of the implementation of some of these new features does work. But you're absolutely right. Like beyond that 15 minutes, the only real difference is the kind of context of it.
Yeah.
For anything that you're doing. So yeah, I think it is a little bit one note, and usually with Uncharted, the story can pull you through it. I'm not saying it's always fantastic, but in this one, it's definitely the weakest of the lot. If I had to put an arbitrary number on it, I think when it first came out, I probably would have scored it an 8 or a 9, but I think nowadays it's a pretty solid 7. You know, it's. And I think that's more of a backhanded compliment for how well it's aged.
That's not
rather
bad,
than yeah, exactly.
It's not bad.
Like, and if we're going to be doing this, I'm going to be marking harsh, right?
Yeah, we've got to. Yeah, we can't leave ourselves no room to go.
7 is not average, people.
We cannot leave ourselves no room to go. One of our good friends who rates his beers on an app like went way too high for his first 100 beers, and it just ended up being stuck in the 9s for everything.
You don't want to do that.
And I'm like, dude, come on now. Like, you know, like 5 out of 10 is average. That's what it should be. It annoys me when 7 out of 10 is average. No, 5 out of 10 is average. Like, what is the point in 1, 2, 3, 4 if we're not going to do this?
Exactly. And if we get to the stage that I'm using decimal points, then I've failed, frankly.